Welcome to part 2 of my mental health journey brought on by hormones, which is not altogether a bad thing. If you're just watching this one, I would strongly suggest you go back and watch episode 1. If you've watched episode 1, then you must have gotten something out of it, because here you are on episode 2. And so let's continue with my journey in normalizing this, and maybe it can help you find some answers as well. So I left off part 1 by saying I came out of a fog, and I sure enough came out of a fog. And when I came out, I realized that there were things not running right in my business. I was having some social media issues, and I was working with a social media company, and I had brought it up to them in August, saying, hey, this, things aren't doing right, and all this kind of stuff. But like I said, I was so fatigued that I really do believe, now that I'm much more clear-headed, that I just didn't have the energy to look into things any further. I knew there was a problem, but I just didn't have the energy to delve into it. And so come October, November, I realized that a lot of things needed to change. And that's kind of when I do feel like I was backpedaling. I was doing a lot of backpedaling. I was wondering, looking back and seeing, where we weren't doing right. What was the issue? I think at this point, it was a series of unfortunate events. I had, if you have a business, or anything about owning a small business, if you take your finger off the pulse for a moment, a lifetime can pass you by. And I feel like I took my finger off the pulse for like 3 or 4 months. And a lot had slipped through the cracks. A lot of things were left unattended. And so I was backpedaling really hard, figuring out how to fix it. I ended up letting my social media company go, and found some other alternatives. I took over social media and found some other ways to market. I think that another unfortunate event that was happening was COVID and the economy, and people's lifestyles were changing. People's economic statuses were changing. There was a lot that changed, and part of it happened while I was in a fog. I had changed. Things were different. And it has been and was a struggle. I was still working. I'm still working with a nutritionist and a trainer. We were following my hormones. I gave my results to him. We tried several different things, still not losing weight, not getting the results I want. And part of how I've maintained my mental health is, one, I am a positive person, and I still have thoughts of negativity. And lately it's been a lot more than I'm used to. And for every negative thought, I'm lucky that I can rationalize it with something positive, which I know some people aren't as lucky. So that's probably another thing that I really have going for myself, and that I'm very blessed. So if you do struggle with, listen, I'm a firm believer that everything we do is mind over matter. And your mind is an amazing thing if it's working for you correctly. And it can also be an incredibly detrimental thing. I'll go back to the fact that I own a meal prep company, and I see people all the time that are really frustrated. And that's the reason I do what I do, is because it is really frustrating trying to, eat right. And more importantly, it's hard, especially for women, to feel good about their bodies. I'm at a point that there's some days that I love my body, and there's other days that I really struggle and being content with how I look and how I feel. And I know that that's a lot of the hormones talking and society, and it is really, really hard. But like I said, I'm blessed that I have an incredibly good support system. And there was a point that I went to my trainer and I said, I'm struggling in my workouts, because I was under eating, and through things that we were doing, I said, I can't, my mental capacity cannot take all the negative. I can't do bad in a workout. I was feeling fatigued, and we were building my calories back up, so I still wasn't eating enough. I was feeling fatigued. I was bottoming out in workouts, so I wasn't finishing strong. I was really having to talk myself through the workouts. I would leave really, and the gym to me has to be a release. I have to, that's my time. I enjoy it. If you don't know me, I do CrossFit. It fits my personality. I absolutely love it. We had changed some things, and I said, and I'm not losing weight. I'm not doing good in the gym. I'm feeling fatigue, and I can barely finish a workout, and it's too many negatives for me. I've got to have a positive. So we, for me, being open with him, we switched my workouts. I said, let's just build up my calories again, and let's focus on performance in the gym. Because I was the one that went to him and said, if we are really fighting hormones, and it's not what I'm eating, and it's not what I'm doing, and it's strictly hormones, you cannot fight them. We're going to have to let this take its course. And so if that's the case, how about we focus on performance? Let's change my workouts that I was doing personally with him to be more of isolated movements, working on my weaknesses, targeting my weaker areas, and kind of not really paying attention to the weight so much. I still have to tell him a weight every week when I see him, but it's not as horrible to get on the scale and see the exact same number every single week, because I'm working on performance. So for me, that mindset changed in my head to accept where I was and what I was going through. And if you don't take anything from this video, but this one thing is, I made the active choice to show myself some really big grace. And that is something that I'm really pushing with even my clients, is please show yourself some grace. Because there are sometimes outside factors that are causing you not to reach your goals. So sometimes you have to take a step back and reevaluate what is going on and what you have control over and what you don't have control over. And for me, I don't have any control over my hormones and what my hormones are doing to my body. I know that I'm eating well. I indulge when I want to. I track everything. I'm as diligent as I can be without letting it get into my head and be super negative. to myself. And since doing that, I do find that I'm doing really well. I'm succeeding at things. There's certain things in the gym that I find that are easier, that, I hit my lifts a lot better. There's a lot of things that I can attribute to the extra stuff that I'm putting in. Yes, my weight hasn't changed. My physique has changed a little bit, but for the most part, I've remained consistent. And I mean, not consistently good and not consistently bad, just consistent. And most days I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong. I still struggle. I still struggle with mental health things. But I would also urge that if you are struggling, just really to talk to somebody. If you don't have a supportive partner, then find a therapist or a friend or somebody that you can confide in and start talking. You would be amazed. I think my biggest thing and why I finally decided to kind of vlog this whole thing is because I've noticed that the more people that I had just kind of talked to about this, and almost in like random conversation, the more I realize that I'm not alone, and you're not alone, and we're not alone. And there's a lot of people going through very, very similar issues. And we can all kind of learn from each other. And, I definitely recommend my hormone specialist, or I tell friends that are going through this, if they don't live in the area, to find a hormone specialist. And not that my OBGYN is bad. I love him. But that's not their specialty. So I would highly recommend seeking people that their specialty deals with whatever issues you have going on. I will be the first to tell you that if you are struggling in the gym or with food, and if you are even struggling with hormones, the first thing that any hormone specialist should have you do is actually to make sure that you're eating correctly. The easy thing when I went to my specialist that she told me was she knew me through the business, so she knew what I ate. And she knew that wasn't an issue. So that was one hurdle that luckily I didn't have to go through. But she would have, she's told me that that's what she normally does, is make sure that they get their diet straight. And then they also have to go on hormones. So like I said, I'm blessed that that's not a hurdle that I had to jump because I was already doing it. But that also should hit home. And it hit home for me whenever I have doubts about my business, because it's only natural, that I remember that it is important what I'm doing, and it is important what my business is teaching people. Yes, we sell food, but we educate as well. And that's probably the most important thing, because had I not been eating well and had I not been exercising regularly, I can't imagine how much worse I would have felt. And like I said in the first part, that we are a very, very unhealthy society. Society has taught us horrible eating habits and horrible food choices, and the horrible food choices are easy and cheap, and that's the most simple way to put it. But it's not the healthiest. So it's a constant struggle, and I'm still, even now, still having to build my business back up. There's been a lot that was lost, and it's now been 6 months, and I'm still I'm still having to kind of backpedal and figure out, what the issues were and fix. There was a couple months that we were in the red, in the height of all that hormone issues going on, and me taking my finger off the pulse. And it has taken a minute to recover from that. And there's a lot of personal feelings of failure and not doing a good enough job, and questioning. There was a lot of questioning of what I was doing, what I was going to do, if we're gonna make it or not. I mean, it's a lot. So not only am I dealing with, just hormones in general, it's the business adding on to that. And of course, anytime I get stressed out, I immediately go, oh my gosh, this is not going to do well with my hormones. And I'm never going to, feel good again, or feel like I look good again. Or there's a lot of self-doubt, and there's a lot of me having to mentally mind over matter and talk myself out of very dark moments. So with this episode that you're watching, talk to somebody. The key points here are: mental health is, serious, and everybody experiences it differently, at different levels, at different severities, but it doesn't take away the fact that I truly believe that all of us are struggling in some form or fashion. And so hopefully me just kind of being vulnerable and putting this stuff out there can help somebody else realize that it's okay to talk about it and to ask for help, and to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, and show yourself some grace. So I will come out with a part 3. I'll kind of, as things unfold, and my journey kind of figures things out, I will post parts. So I hope you get something out of this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you at part 3.